It's estimated that around 1 in every 2 people in the UK will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their lives. That alarming statistic from the charity Cancer Research UK is a reminder that the disease can affect any of us at any time. But frightening as the diagnosis is, it also brings fears about the damage to the finances of the people affected. Steve lives in Crewe. 7 years ago he was told he had kidney cancer, then, 18 months later, that it had spread to his stomach.
Well, it was horrendous because on my original diagnosis, I had a 2-year-old and my wife was 14 weeks pregnant. So 18 months down the line, I've now got 2 children, both under the age of 5. We'd not long moved to a new house with a big mortgage because at the end of the day, I was 35, 36, 37. So first proper move from a flat to a house. And suddenly I'm looking down, how long am I going to be here? And is my wife going to be able to afford to keep my house?
Well, more about Steve's story in a moment, but a charity is calling on the government to improve the financial safety net for people who are diagnosed with cancer. Dan Whitworth's with me in the Salford studio to tell us more. Dan.
Well, this call, Paul, comes from a small grassroots cancer charity called Remission, and it helps support around 20,000 people who have been diagnosed with cancer. Now, it's carried out a survey of more than 1,200 cancer survivors and spoken in depth with nearly 100. Now, some of the key numbers from that research: 2/3 of those questioned reported a significant drop in earnings when they were able to return to work, whilst 3/4 said they struggled to get back to work at all. So now Remission is calling for changes to the benefit system to better help cancer survivors, something Steve told me he agreed with at his family home in Crewe.
I think I'll just say, first of all, when I first got told I was got cancer, the first thing I thought about was finances and how am I going to be affected by this. I was in a reasonably paid job, so it was a good job, senior management job, and I suddenly realised I was going to be ending up on literally no money because what you do get, statutory-wise,
that's statutory sick pay.
And I'll be honest and open, I was earning £35,000 a year, and suddenly I'm going to be on less than £5,000 a year. I mean, how does that, I'm no mathematician or genius, but I know that doesn't go. I was really lucky. I've got some amazing family that helped out a lot. I did the usual things that everybody's entitled to. You were all entitled to a mortgage holiday, for example, 1 or 2 months, and I got a maximum of 2 months. I got some absolutely unbelievable friends who organised a charity fundraising event for us. My wife didn't have a single day off sick or off at all through my treatment because we couldn't afford her to. So post-treatment, we were in an absolute mess, a real mess. We managed somehow to keep our heads, we managed to keep a house, and everything else had to be cut to the bone, to the point where my parents were buying our food, they were buying clothes for the kids, you name it. We weren't able to fund that. And if I didn't have my parents around, we'd have been in I don't even dread to think where we'd be.
What help was available from the government, from the DWP, for example?
I felt like not only was I fighting my illness, I felt I was fighting the system. It's torture at times, and I've never claimed benefits for anything in my life, and I was faced to having to in this situation. And I consider myself as a senior manager, somebody who's pretty well educated, but that system was there to make you fail, basically. It was horrendous. There was things to trip you up, things to try and catch you out.
What would be your message to the system? What would be your message to those in power about how they can better help people like you? 1 in 2 people are going to get diagnosed with cancer in their lives. This is not uncommon.
Be human. Listen to people. Don't just be a tick box. Don't just be a form somebody's got to fill in and go through a process. This is real life. This is people's health. It's their finances. It's everything they've ever worked for. And I understand there's a lot of bad feeling out there about people who take benefits who shouldn't do and things like that. But these are genuine cases and people that need help. And I'm a case and example. I had never, ever claimed a single penny until that point. And I don't now because I don't need to, because I've somehow managed to get myself back on my feet. But listen and help people. But that's what the system's supposed to be there for.
So that was Steve talking to me earlier this week, and who is now currently clear of cancer. The Department for Work and Pensions told me in a statement a pathway already exists for people who are unemployed and have cancer to receive the highest level of benefits, and that it's working to improve what it says is the broken welfare system that it inherited. Adding it regularly meets cancer charities to improve the assessment process for patients and is investing £240 million to join up health and employment support so personalised help is there for those who need it.
Thanks, Dan. Now, listening to all that is Laura Fulcher, the founder of Mission Remission. Laura Fulcher, listening to Steve's story from your research, how common is his experience?
It's really, really common, and it's horrific, really. I mean, you hope that Steve is one of these people that's fallen through the cracks of the system, but actually there are no cracks in this system. There are mighty chasms. And if you have a look at our research, 88% of people say the system needs to improve.
And what about how the benefits work then? How could they have helped in Steve's situation? If everything had worked properly, what should he have got?
Well, you'd hope that benefits would be provided automatically. I mean, it's pretty obvious that somebody that needs to take time off work for 9 to 12 months, or, often up to 3 years, that they need financial support, and it should be provided automatically. There shouldn't be these barriers in place where you're having to fight the DWP at the same time as fighting for your life.
Yes, I mean, he said a system designed to make you fail. That was his view.
Exactly.
Though, of course, as Dan reported, the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions, said, that there is a pathway there for people and they're spending money to give personalised help. Are they not doing enough?
No, I mean, I don't really feel like they're listening because, the barriers that people face day to day are not being fixed. Certainly the recommendations that they've made are not addressing the issues that people are raising. I mean, I guess even on a fundamental level, the welfare state is just not sufficient. I mean, who can really survive on, £100 a week, while they're also having all the extra costs of facing cancer?
Yes, and so what would you like the government to do to help them more? What changes specifically are you calling for from your report?
Okay, so people often talk about cancer after treatment as being a cliff's edge in support. All of your clinical support disappears and you're suddenly supposed to be miraculously better. Well, actually, it does take a long time. And we're calling for more physical and psychological support to recover so that people can get back to work. People are also really scared to get back to work in case, cancer comes back, and then they have to go through like a year-long process of fighting for their benefits again. So we'd ideally like to see benefits paused for 5 years and for them to come back automatically. And talking about automatically, we'd like to see financial help provided automatically rather than all these endless forms.
Yes.
The other thing, so there's 2 more things, sorry. The other thing is that the government keeps calling cancer short term when it really isn't. And finally, there's the critical illness cover.
Yes, we'll come on to critical illness cover, but just on benefits for a moment, you say you'd like it paused. So what you mean is that you've claimed it, you've got some help, then you get better with your treatment, and you go back to work, you're afraid of losing your benefit, or you do lose your benefit. You think it should just be put on hold in case you need to come back to it, a sort of automatic process.
Yeah, so basically, people, when they go back to work, I mean, they'd expect their benefits to be stopped, right? But often, cancer can come back. And when it comes back, it often comes back in a more severe form. So it's obvious that people will need to go back on the same benefit that they were on previously.
Yes, without going through the long and sometimes difficult claims process.
Exactly.
And you mentioned critical illness cover. That's an insurance that pays out if you have one of certain specified critical illnesses. A lot of people don't have it. What do you think should be done there?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that the government mandates work-based pensions, but they don't do the same thing for critical illness cover. And actually, within our community, that's one of the things that people have said, hey, this is the one thing that really transformed my experience.
Yes, of course, you've got to look very carefully at it to make sure you get exactly the cover you need. And literally, in a word, what help can you get if you haven't got all those marvellous relatives that Steve had? In a word.
Oh, well, not much. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound bleak.
But there are a lot of charities out there in cancer organisations, and I suppose you can find those.
I mean, you could go to Citizens Advice. There's another organisation called Turn to Us too, and Macmillan.
Laura Fulcher from Mission Remission, thanks very much.